All right, we are on the stream. So, in theory, people can hear us. Yay.
Welcome, Internet.
Woo.
All right, so we're just going to give a few minutes for people to kick in. If anybody wants to say hi, give us a shout, give us a chat. And
Comments, likes, and concerns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe. Ah.
Hey, make sure you smash that subscribe button, guys.
That's probably my least favorite
I
part of
hate that.
modern video makers. Just, yeah.
And make sure to hit the bell icon too.
Yeah, because the thing I need most in my life is a notification from a YouTuber.
Yep.
Well, I love it when I'm watching a tutorial or something, and I'm like, "Oh, what settings?" And it's like, zoom, something big across the screen. It's like, bang! Like I'm like, "Oh, thanks. That was cool." Sweet.
Hey, we're getting some people in.
Yeah.
Hello, people.
Woodsy,
Hi, guys.
Afterfade, and Magiscald. Sweet. Good morning or evening or
Oh, Rick Rubin is
everything.
back.
Oh, we better behave well.
Rick Rubin, if that's really you, then your guys should call my guys. Let's set something up.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Thank you
And
for.
if that's really
love to
you,
come
you'll know what I'm
down to-
talking about, so.
Shangri-La and hang out. I promise I won't wear shoes.
Shame me for my small beard.
I think he would.
Yeah, seems that kind of guy.
He'd be like, hey, your beard's small.
Oh
All right,
no.
should we let's get this started.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and get started. So, welcome to the live stream number 2 for the mix reviews. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We've got a few songs, all submissions from the group. So I'm pretty sure most people are probably aware of True Peak Audio and the group and True Peak Mixing and Mastering on Facebook. And most people at this point will know who we are. We have a new addition for tonight. Daphne joined us. She is in Australia, so the time period has not been kind to her when we did this last time. So we wanted to mix it up and give her a chance to participate too. So go ahead and hi.
Yeah, so I'm Daphne. Hi, was it Magiscald? Is that? I apologize if I mispronounced that in the live stream chat. Yeah, I'm Daphne. I'm Australian. The last one was like 7 a.m. my time. With kids, that doesn't work out so well. Yeah, I guess if I'm telling you about myself, I've been sort of playing around with audio pretty much as long as I can remember. My parents were both musicians, and yeah, I just love everything music. I think that's about all I've got to say.
Wonderful intro.
Cool.
Yeah, and Dan, Jordan, you want to say anything before we get started?
Just glad to be back for
Jordan,
round 2. And we're going to have some fun, guys. Glad to be here.
Yeah, just excited for round 2. Can't wait to hear the songs. I was really impressed with what we heard last time, so hopefully we can keep up with that, and let's get started.
Yeah, there's a high bar
Right.
from last time. Those are some great songs. So tonight we are going to start with a song called Child Stirs from one of our members under the name Headstrong.
Sorry, Josh,
Yep.
Before we get going, we forgot to talk about this last time, so I'm just going to interrupt you real quick. Guys, if you like what we do and you want us to do more of it and you want to help us out, there is a little PayPal link in the bottom right of the screen. Feel free to send us $1, 50 cents, tree fitty, whatever you can spare. Any donation matters, and it's great, and we love it, and it'll just help us keep doing this. And back to you, Josh.
Sweet. Yeah, we were so into the music last time, we completely even forgot about all the stuff you're supposed to do. And we didn't spam with a like and subscribe in the front, so that's got to count for something.
Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, people.
Oh, boy. So first one is an artist called Headstrong, Child Stirs. and it was submitted by Jeff Woods, who's a name I've seen quite a bit in the group. Now on this one, it came in a little low on the level, which is fine for the mix, but compared to the other songs, they came in at like -9 and -10 LUF. So I went ahead and normalized this one up to about -15, but changed the dynamics 0. So I made sure to keep it perfectly intact, just raise the overall level because it was at a good, mix level. But I didn't want it to be super quiet compared to the others. Since we know that louder typically sounds better in general, so on even bar. So I'm going to go ahead and mute now, and we're going to take a listen. And just like last time, we're going to all kind of listen. This is the first time we're hearing these songs. So we're going to take notes as we listen and then just kind of share what we think. So here we go.
Right on.
All right.
All right.
Josh, you back? Jordan, you back?
I am. It always takes me a second because I have to double mute and double unmute. And for some reason, my Discord makes an obnoxious noise when I mute and unmute, so I have to figure out how to disable that. So apologies for the bleep, bleep every single time. Yeah, sweet. Jordan, you are muted if you are trying to come back.
I'm back.
Yay!
I'm really interested to see what Josh has to say about this one because I feel like it's going to be really up his alley with the sound. I'm going to go first. I do have a love for the metals. I'm more mainly a electronic hip hop producer, but I still do have that love for the good old metals. It was giving me that kind of old Pantera / Iron Maiden kind of feel to it. I did really love those chuggy guitars, and I love those solos. I really liked it.
Yeah. All right, Jordan, I guess you're done, so I'm going to step in and trample all over you if you're not done. I thought the song was great. I love the writing. I was really getting into the groove, so I think there's a really strong foundation here, and I think like a few tweaks could really bring it up. One of the best things in this song was actually like the backing vocals that were going on. There was some great lines going on in the background, adding some like counterpoint and stuff to the main melody, and I loved it. I geek out about that stuff, and I think it's my classical background that does it, but some of my favorite stuff is like that. So bravo on the backing vocals. Really, really good.
Yeah, on that, there was a part in the
They were
bridge.
solid.
There's a part on the bridge that got me good when they were hard delayed and they had distortion on them. And so it was like punching in and out. That was awesome. So carry on. But I want to say, those backgrounds were pretty cool in some spots.
Is that the one with the scream around 255 or something like that?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry, I should keep it PG.
I mean, I'm drinking beer on stream, so don't worry about it. Anyways, I thought when the drums come in,
Hardcore with my green tea.
They could have been like boosted up a couple dB just for like the like little intro bit and then pull back. It's sort of a thing like when you introduce a new element, you can boost it up a little bit just to grab the listener's attention, and then you pull it back to the level you actually want it. And it's these little like automation moves throughout a song as things come in and out of the background that really like makes it feel live, and like it has 3D depth and things are moving around in the depth of field and stuff. So that's a big thing. And then I also thought like the background vocals are good, but the main vocals could use some layers. Like I thought there were times more towards the end of the song when you could have really experimented with some like lull growls under some of the lyrics, like just for a couple words or so. Just a couple more layers on the lead vocal would have been great. And then I'll pass it on.
Go for it, Daphne.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say on the drums in the intro, what the way it grasped me was the low end coming in the intro was very, very intense. So when the drums and the guitars kicked in, they did feel kind of wimpy in comparison. So sort of similar to what Dan was saying, I would just approach it by bringing the that intro bass down a little bit, and that would allow the guitars and the drums to really punch in a lot harder because they were a really nice level through the rest of the song. It's just they were kind of a little bit a little bit lacking. I also would have really, really liked to, excuse me, hear the doubled vocals for the main vocal line were great, but I would have really liked to hear a single vocal line at some point because I could hear the vocals and they sounded great, but that's just sort of more like a stylistic touch though. While the hard pan vocals I made some notes as I was doing it. While the hard pan vocals during that scream at around 255 was just perfect with the ping pong delay there.
Yeah.
I did find that the hard pan vocals through the rest of the song were a little bit distracting, especially in headphones, and felt like they were pulling me side to side a little bit. And I've got more things there, but I'll pass it on to Josh just in case I'm saying everything. Leave Josh some things to say.
All good. We always have to find a balance. So I actually have Tim here in spirit. So Tim is one of our UK admins and instructors, and he couldn't make it because this is really late for him. But he went ahead and listened to the songs beforehand, just like we are now, one time, and to get his initial thoughts on it. And then he sent me some notes. So I'll go ahead and share some of what he said as well. But from my perspective, there's a few things that I think could step it up. I really like the song as a song, and I really like the rawness of the song. It doesn't have a super high, like overly polished sound, which I'm digging on. I think the lack of a really strong center was what was kind of pulling me out of it. So the vocals have a lot of the really wideness. The guitars are very wide. And Tim touched on this as well. He says that the guitars sound a little odd. They're very pan, but nothing approaching the absolute center. And to him, it sounded like they're a little stereofied as opposed to being a double track. And for me, some of what stood out is like in the first solo, it sounds like there's a lead part and a harmony part, but the harmony is on the right and it's a lot lower, so it feels more like the guitar is just slanted off to the left, as opposed to being two pieces that are complementing together. And what I really would like to have had a little bit more of is some of the automation that Dan was talking about, which is that as one thing's coming in, change the elements that are there. And where it stood out the most is where the vocals and the guitars were fighting with each other, usually on the transitions. So you'd have the vocal that would like sing this big note on the way out, and then the guitars would come at the same time, and they're kind of just clouding each other. And that's one of those things where, especially in the outro, same kind of deal. At that point, in my mind, and this is just my opinion, at that point, I'd like to have the vocals dip down and have those guitars come back in and have those arpeggios or whatever they're doing, so they as a strong finish of the blah, 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 or what they were doing. And so it felt kind of like it was a set it and forget it mix, where like you got your levels, the balance is pretty good, and then just let it ride the entire song. So I think pulling some things in and out would help with that. And the other thing I'll say from Tim is he said it's got a cool Gogol Bordello type vibe, which I don't know what that is. So
I can kind of chime in there. So like, imagine System of a Down, but more gypsy like and a little bit less heavy, with a small dash of like, I don't want to say ska, but kind of like that kind of vibe to it. So I can kind of pick up on what Tim's saying.
Yeah,
it's very interesting that Tim's into that kind of stuff. So hats up to Tim.
Tim has a really wide musical palette, I've found.
I would love to go through his archives. I'm sure he's got any and everything.
What Tim's going to be into next. Like, love it.
I would love for him to just do a weekly spin where he just does a session and just digs through stuff. New True Peak idea.
Oh yeah, there you go.
So cool. Before we move on, is there anything else anybody felt that should jump in with?
I would have liked perhaps a touch more with the snare. It was sort of a very, very clean snare sound. I would have liked a little bit more of the bottom of the snare, which if you don't have the mic from the bottom, there you can often sort of get by mixing in a bit of saturation to get a little bit of that sort of trail of the snare through there. Would have been nice to have a little bit more of that. Just, yeah. The snare just sounded very dry.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, Daphne. And I
get what you're saying.
My notes that like the snare needs to be heavier. I just hate making that comment on streams because your snare sucks is kind of like a meme of like mixers, and but yeah, it could have been heavier. I could have used a little distortion on it even or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I thought the kick hit nicely though.
Yeah, kick came through really well.
Yeah, I
would have liked to touch more click in there, but that's sort of just completely a taste thing. That's me.
Yep. Yeah, I feel the same about the snare, but I try to pull myself back because anybody who knows me knows that I want a hell of a lot of crack on that bottom, and I like to max out the plate so it sounds like a gunshot going off. I love it. And so that would be my feedback, like on everybody's thing, and that would just be annoying. So I try to be like, hey, it was a more raw sound. That's what you're going for, so I just let it be.
I
Yeah.
do understand that though, because I'll hear some hip hop snares that as soon as they go off, I go like this every time because it sounds like it's such a gunshot in your ear. It just claps you.
Hmm.
Mm.
I don't know. I think my
Yeah, I just
least
wanted some more of
favorite
that
snare.
the wires come through.
Yeah.
It would have been nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was gonna say I think my least
Anyway.
favorite snare is that like EDM electronic snare that sounds like it's just like a clip of white noise. You know,
Oh,
just like a 10
yup.
millisecond like white noise.
Yep.
I'm like, that's
Yup.
like my least favorite snare sound. So this is better
Sidechain,
than
brother.
Well,
All right.
cool.
That's all I had to say about this song, and I don't know what anyone else has to say.
Yep. So for anybody tuning in now, welcome. Again, we're doing the True Peak Audio live mix reviews. So if you're so inclined, send a tip. If not, just enjoy. We love having everybody here anyway. The next one is a submission called AFL with a song called A Happy Ending of the World, which makes me happy already. And this was submitted by John Madison. So let me cue that up. And let's give a listen. Here we go.
Let's do it.
See you on the flip side.
All right, I'm back.
That was a fun listen.
Hello. All right, who wants to start this one?
I'm kind of dying to,
Um,
but I'll let you homies go first.
You have to share,
All right.
Jordan.
Because
I
this
know,
is
I'm an
utterly
only
not.
child.
This is utterly not my usual thing, so I guess I'll go first so that we can
let's do
move
it.
on past it. Nice, really, really, really eclectic track. Very, very interesting. Some absolutely beautiful moments in there. Yeah.
What did you think of the
when,
vocal melody?
when it came in, it was absolutely beautiful. I did think it was perhaps a touch too wet. I would have liked a little bit more pre-delay on it before the verb hit so that the vocals were a little bit cleaner. I understand it being that wet, but I would have liked just that little bit of pre-delay so that the vocal themselves were perhaps a touch cleaner. Yeah. The second, when it was just coming in during the intro, that second high pitch, that second synth came in was a little bit sharp. It was really nice that what you're doing with it, but it was just a little bit sharp in my ears. It might just be these headphones because I am using the Beyerdynamic DT990s, which can be a little bit sharp in the top end, but yeah. When that bass came in though, that was straight in the heart.
Oh yeah.
My one thing that I was thinking though, there are a lot of different ideas going on there. What I'd like to see is almost more focusing on a couple of the ideas that you've got there and just building on them. And then it sort of felt like you've got enough going on there for like two completely separate songs.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it started to get into the more discordant stuff. Don't get me wrong, I listen to free jazz in my own free times. One of my favorite albums is Miles Davis' Bitches Brew, which is amazing. Amazingly discordant in places. But
Wonderful album.
yeah, it just felt like there were a few ideas that have been sort of jammed together in places.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool track, but yeah, I think it could be a lot better if you focused on a few of those ideas.
Yeah, well,
and built
I'll
on
go
them.
next if no one wants to. I mean, I want to agree with Daphne, but not spend too much time on it. It did feel in a few spots like, the first time the vocal melody comes in compared to the second time it comes in, it felt like two completely different songs, and like both of them were good, but it felt like they weren't related back to each other, and so it just kind of feels like disjointed rather than taking me on a journey and telling a story and changing things as you go. It was like almost like a hard stop. Here's a new thing, completely different from before. That being said, this isn't really my genre. So if that's like a staple of this type of music and I just don't know about it, then disregard.
You old boomer.
Yeah. I love my boomer music, my Steely Dan and yeah, like I mix a lot of shows over at the Steam Whistle here, and like the venue people, they're like, "What? You're not playing Steely Dan today?" When I'm ringing out the system, and so I'm definitely a boomer at heart when it comes to music. But yeah, that's a little about me. Before you jump in, Josh, I just want to say one or two more things. I love the birds in the intro. I think it just creates this
No,
cool,
beautiful.
outdoorsy, naturey vibe. And I was like, ooh, this has like instantly transported me to a place. You know what I mean? Like I connect with the music differently when that sort of thing is in there, and I love that. So, all right, now I'll let you take over, Josh.
So I absolutely loved the fucking sound design, especially the nature ambiences out the gate. It's funny, the very, very beginning of the song actually reminded me of the Pixies with the it just didn't do it, but it's got a very similar, like very first fragment, which I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse when things remind you of something else. But anyway, enough of that tangent. I absolutely love the beginning of this song. Everything about the first quarter I thought was spot on, other than what Daphne was picking up on, which is that there's some shrill resonances in a couple of the layers that just on that high end bite a little too much. So they could be toned down a little bit. But the layers themselves were absolutely great. I laughed kind of in the middle of the mix because it sounded super bass heavy in my cans, and these cans do have a good bass response, but I had a feeling that it would destroy my house if I turned the sub on. So I took the cans off for a second and turned on the mains, and it was destroying the house. So I don't know.
Me gusta.
Which I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, I don't have a frame of reference to tell you if it's too much or too little. I would have to have a reference
No, that's
track and see,
good.
but you get the plus from Jordan. But the thing I will say about it is I like tonally the bass. I would have no qualms with the mixing of the tone of it. Just the level itself might be, absurdly loud. But again, grain of salt because I'm on headphones and I briefly turn the sub on. There's a part where the snare is cracking and it's right at the threshold where that snare is almost annoying, but it's just sitting right on top. And that was like, I think in the first third. So I would say you rode the line really good on having a super present hot high snare without making me annoyed about it. So I was like, you're right in that threshold, and I think that was sitting perfectly. Where it fell apart for me is about a minute 35 in is where the main shift happens and all the chaotic layers happen, and there's some serious dissonance in the harmonic structure. And it wasn't like I know that there's probably an artistic element, like that's kind of the point. Like you're supposed to feel awkward. It's the happy end of the world and things like that. But it didn't connect to me in the way that I think it was intended to. It just felt kind of odd. And that could be from too many layers. Tim mentioned in his feedback um, that there's a lot of information occupying various parts. And so, whereas the beginning started very complex, there's 3 or 4 really different layers going on in that intro, but they sit well with each other. That minute 35 transition just felt odd to me. Just felt cluttered. Not just dissonant, just kind of cluttered in a way. And so I think there's probably some things that could be done differently, or if that's exactly the way you intended it, don't listen to me. Like it's a piece of art. But that's just what I took away from it. That said, there's a little cutout or a drop in the music at 220 where it cuts out for a second and then pumps right back in, and I loved it. Like a little micro drop to my core. I was in love with that section. And so again, I have to say the sound design was top notch to me. The one thing that I think I really, really would have liked is that the vocals are, I don't think they're too wet, because I really like the reverb and the wetness. I think they were too thin. And this is where I would have liked a little bit more body. And from the way that I look at it, this is where I like my personal choice of the Mag EQ4, the red knob, the 600 hertz knob, gets whatever that vocal was missing, whoop, just a little bit, and not a lot, just to warm it up and push it a little in the front, because the vocals do get a little buried at times. And at that point, it's just a decision. Is the vocal another sound design layer? Is it like a synthesizer that's just kind of riding the music, or is it something to focus on? Like, do you want me to really pay attention to what the singer is doing, or do you want it to just be part of the groove? And again, it's a creative decision. It can be further back. If you want me to really pay attention to that as a core element, then I personally would like it a little more upfront and a little warmer, especially in the 600 hertz.
That Mag EQ special in that range as well,
That's
especially in the air, of course, which is what it's known for. But the 600 on the Mag is great.
The 600 is something very, very cool about that EQ. It's become my go-to for vocals, purely for that red knob and for the air. It just does nice things that I like.
Yeah, I just want to touch on like what you were saying about the vocal like level and whether it should be forward or sitting back. I actually had it in my notes that like, oh, you should bump the vocals, like they're hard to hear. And then as the song went on, I was like, oh, maybe not. Maybe these should sit back. Maybe these are more of like an ethereal sound design element rather than like a traditional like vocal where you want all the vocals to be up front so you can hear the lyrics, so you can understand the song. Like maybe that's not what this is about. And like, one of my favorite bands, War on Drugs, does something similar. I love their music, I love their songs, couldn't tell you any of their lyrics because the vocals are so buried. It's just another instrument in the band.
Yeah.
Sounds like
I
My
love it.
Bloody Valentine.
Mhm.
And that's why I always try to be cautious with that kind of feedback, because there's a difference between your artistic vision. This is why it's important to work with people that get your vision. Mixing engineers that understand your vision, mastering engineers that understand your vision, artists that understand your vision, because we talked about this last time. You give 10 different mix engineers the same tracks, and they're going to give you different things. In fact, that's an experiment we're planning on doing for the group, of just that experiment. But now that we've taken up every single point, Jordan, what would you like to contribute?
The bass was fantastic. The sound design choices were fantastic. The only thing in the beginning, I don't know how many times it was looped. It would have been, I mean, if the intro was shorted a little bit and done in more like a traditional 3-bar or like a 4-bar loop, that would have been a little bit, because I felt like it was just riding a little bit. But when I saw what was coming in on the waveform, I was like, oh, baby, I'm ready for this. And I was not let down. The bass came in great. The only thing I have is that if the vocal sample was a little bit more prevalent, because I wanted to hear that more because of how nice it sounded. So it would have been nice to have a little bit more repetition. But it was fantastic. I do like what you guys were saying about the back end. It would have been interesting if it kind of fell along more with the title of the song, because it did start out like really nice and happy. Like if that back end where like it had that like cut, if that would have been more like, maybe you could have done things slower or done something to kind of like emulate the end of the world type thing, that would have been really cool. But you guys touched on everything. The bass was beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah, you brought up an interesting point about the end of the world theme. It reminded me of a song that I did where it was about basically the end of life and a supernova consuming the entire everything in our universe. And that's what I did, is I built basically a sound landscape of buildings crumbling and it getting noisy. Yep. And I didn't even think about that until here. It would be kind of cool, because it kind of ends in the same way it starts. It kind of, starts pleasant, ends pleasant. And yeah, that could be an interesting concept album type thing of making it, which it already has those elements, which is why I like the sound design. So anyway, I'll shut up now.
Yeah, I was going to say on that, it would be nice, just a random thought. You sort of had elements of what I'm thinking already in there, with that those little moments of silence where it goes and bangs back in, up nice and loud. It would be, what I'd like to see is sort of getting the feeling of the end of the world, getting more nervous and anxiety, sort of building on the themes rather than adding more and getting more dissonant. Maybe getting more glitchy and more saturated, more distorted, and getting nastier and nastier before pulling back to the nice ambient again. It's just a random thought.
Yeah,
I'd like that. That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, I would love to hear that version.
So would I.
Send it in for round 3, bud. We'll hear it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's all I have to say about this one.
Yep. Again, excellent submissions. I always love what people in the group are making. Like, it always surprises me just how interesting and excellent it is. And a lot of, I think, our points on this one were nitpicky. But that's, it's better to give nitpicky advice than nothing at all, because, the nitpicks are what bring you from that 90% to that 95. All right.
Yes, sir.
Well, the next one, and this will be the last one of the night.
Or the afternoon for me.
Or the afternoon, yes.
Any Aussies watching?
If not, hopefully more soon. So the last one is from Jared DeSalma, and this is called On Fire. And so I'll go ahead and mute, and let's listen to this.
We're on fire, but I need you now.
Cool.
Back.
Woo! All right, who wants to start with this one? No takers? I'll start.
I was going to say
All right.
Jordan hasn't started first yet, but no,
he's
you did
got
on the
it
very
on
first
the
track, didn't you?
first one, yeah. It's up to me or Josh.
Does
What
Tim
you
want to
got,
take
boys?
the first one?
Yeah, why don't we let Tim take it?
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, take it, Tim.
So I'll try to do my best British accent. Okay, no, I'm not gonna do that.
I
Boy,
would
mate.
love to hear your Tim impression.
Right. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah,
Insert David Attenborough.
I'll just go through Tim's. He says, "Not my usual jam." I can relate to that too. I would say the same thing. He says, "Quite polished production, so it's harder to critique." He says he really liked the vocal pitching, and he loves the builds that go to anti-drops. It gives a big sense of space. His main criticism is that everything has effects on it. Everything has reverbs. Everything has lush delays, which makes for a luxurious sound. But if there was some contrast, some drier sounds or two, it would sound bigger overall. Nothing is big if everything is big. He says, "Good work." He's looking forward to the next review. So with that, I guess I'll follow in because this is not my normal jam either. So I'm not going to have a ton of things to say. But what I will say is that out the gate, there was a lot of hiss in the high end, and it didn't sound like an intentional lo-fi vibe. It sounded unintentional to me. Like maybe there was a mic that was just hissing, or it was crushed so much in the limiter that it was just bringing up the noise floor. And so I'd be mindful of that. Is that if you're going to go lo-fi, make sure it feels lo-fi and not just like it's a suboptimal recording. And I noticed the hiss again at the break at 145, where everything comes back down, that hiss noise floor is kind of back in there. Now, that said, I really like the reverb swells on the verse vocals. I'm not a huge fan of the auto-tune style, but I really like the creativeness and tonally how these ones sat. The juxtaposition between the highs and the lows. And the reverb was, I agree with Tim, it was a very polished sound. I did really enjoy it. I think the biggest thing that I felt off to me was in the drops where, it comes down before you go bam right back in. It didn't feel to me like certain elements were pulling back and that it was like opening up to bam. It sounded to me like somebody's taking the master fader and taking everything, like all the drums, all the vocal, like everything was writing down. And it didn't vibe for me. Like I like the pullback and I like a big strong drop tick when it comes back in, it pounds. But there's something about these drops that were just thin to me. It wasn't a full kind of like drop like that to me. And maybe somebody with more experience in this genre can explain what I'm sensing. I really, really like the synths at the end. There's some arpeggiated synth work and some counterpoint synth that I thought blended really, really well together. Tonally, it just sat perfect. The other thing is that the kick was being dulled to me by the long legato style bass. I could hear the kick and I could even feel the kick. I actually took the cans off again and turned on the sub, and I'm like, the kick is there. It's not like the kick disappears or anything, but it felt like it was fighting. And maybe that's one of the side chain things where, like, you make sure your kick is side chained to open it up a little, or maybe just fine tuning the frequencies that they're sitting in a little stronger. Make the kick have a bigger thump and the bass at a little different frequency. So I think there could be some fudging in there. But yeah, I would have to play with it in the studio. I don't think I could give specifics on what I would change. And that's all I've got.
All right.
I'll jump in next. Oh,
Or Daphne, if you want to go.
sure. I was actually going to touch on Josh. I actually quite, possibly because it's not really a genre that I listen to much, I actually quite liked the dynamics, the way the drops worked.
Interesting.
Yeah, I did get a similar feeling, but I actually felt like it worked quite well for the track and actually helped draw me into it a little bit more. It could potentially draw me in more if there was a little bit more of that hit there when it was coming back in, but I really quite liked it. And yeah, it just felt like it was sort of, rather than going down and bam, it sort of just felt like it was just moving around, sort of pulling around, just like nice movement in there. Yeah. What I'm going to call, it was beautiful ambience coming in. I really enjoyed that. And the presence on the vocals was wonderfully up front. What I would like to hear is in what I'm going to call the B section, where it sort of hits in a bit harder. The vocals sort of felt perhaps a touch lost in there. They still kept that same sort of quite breathy sound that they had during the first section. And it's probably just once again a personal taste thing. I'd like to hear them a little bit harsher, maybe a little bit of saturation on them, just so that they match the vibe of everything else that's going on there. What did I have next? Yeah, on the pitch shifted up vocals. I like Tim said, I loved the pitch shifting on the vocals there. Little suggestion on the pitch shifting up. When you've got breathy vocals like that, it can come out sounding quite harsh when you pitch it up because you're pitching up the breathiness as well. Try using an EQ to EQ out some of that breathiness before you hit the pitch shifter. And often they'll come out sounding quite a bit less harsh and a little bit more. You obviously don't want to go for natural, but you won't get as much of that pitch shifted breathiness, which is quite nasty in these cans. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed the use of dynamics and overall really cool track.
Great mind thinks alike because I'm listening to
on the vocals. Sorry, Jordan.
Oh no, you're fine, man. It's just I pretty much had the exact same notes. The only thing is, the last song, if they would have used the vocals kind of like it was through this one, it would have been a little bit interesting. Yeah, man, just hitting on everything that you guys said. I enjoyed it. It was a nice track. I would have thrown it on at a DJ set.
Yeah, I enjoyed the track as well, and I don't have as much to say about this one as I have about some of the others. Again, it's not my genre. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to disagree with you and Daphne and Tim on the pitch shifting with the vocals, but again, not my genre, not my taste. I just felt like, especially in the beginning, the octave down vocals just seemed a bit out of place, and I found myself asking, like, what does this pitch shift add to the song? Like, I think the song is trying to communicate an emotion of something. What is this pitch shifting doing to further that? And I think maybe it just went on too long. Like, maybe if you made it shorter sections of the pitch shift down, at least in the beginning, because when it worked better later when there were more elements going on, but I found in the beginning it was a bit distracting. But maybe I'm just a boomer.
It's funny because I'm not normally into the auto-tune sound, but I enjoyed it, so go figure.
You never know. It's a matter of taste, right? It's a matter of taste and opinion, and like, it's art. Everyone's gonna have a different opinion, and we all know what opinions are like, and everyone's got one. But that's just mine.
Yep.
I thought maybe if it was used more creatively or more purposefully, it could have worked better. It just felt like it was, I have this one line of normal vocals and now I need to change something. So let's just slap an octave down vocal in there and that'll change it enough and we can keep going. I don't know, like maybe if there was a time when you hear the whole pitch slide down that whole octave and connect it that way, that could have been cool. Or if you pitch it down an octave but you also cut out the low end of that or the high end of that, or something. Just don't just pitch shift it down, do something else to it at the same time. Distort it, widen it, like do a weird stereo widening effect, or
you could do a reverb throw on it or something.
Yeah, reverb throw.
Something that I've heard Flume do is actually sort of cutting between the pitch down and the regular one, sort of jumping between them in the one line, which can work really well. Sorry, I meant to say your track really reminds me of Flume, which is
Shout out to Australian
other,
electronic music.
Main comment was just some of the vocal delays could have been a little bit more separated from the main vocal. Because again, like they were distracting and just getting in the way a little bit. And like they sound great. They sound lush and beautiful and everything you want a delay to sound like, but it was just stepping on the main vocal a little bit too much. So either like a side chain or, just a little bit level, or just ride that a little bit. It's just something to back it away from the main vocal. That's all. That's pretty much it for my comments on this one. Other things were great, like the bass pad in the beginning was awesome. I love the sound of that. A lot of cool sound design elements, a lot of cool stuff going on. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like the track too. I think a few engineering things, maybe like Tim says, maybe focus on the dynamics of bringing some layers in and some out, so there's more of a ebb and flow. Could step it up, but yeah, all really good stuff. So that is our time on this mix review. Again, thank you everybody. We love doing this. It's really fun for us. And I know I especially learn a lot from both the people submitting the songs, like the creative ideas and the music itself is really cool. But also just the feedback from everybody else. Like we can have two completely opposing opinions, and at least gives me something to think about. Like, okay, well this connected to another really good engineer in a different way that it didn't connect to me on, and that's an important perspective. It's good to see what works with other people, and maybe you like it, maybe you don't. I've gotten tons of advice where I'm like, yeah, that's an interesting point. Now I'm not going to do anything about it because I love what I did, and that's your choice as an artist. So take nothing that we say as a critical negativity. It's all in the spirit of us all getting better together.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, we all come from good places. We just want to see all of you guys get to the true peak that you can.
Jordan.
There's got to be at least one of those puns in every stream we do. So thank you, Jordan, for taking that.
You're welcome. Oh, don't forget about that tip jar, boys. If you liked it, money's cool. Crypto, we're gonna start taking crypto soon.
Yeah. If you're feeling the Christmas, Hanukkah, or other seasonal spirit,
allows us to keep doing more and more of these and getting bigger and better things happening. And yeah.
And so we're gonna do another one. We don't have a time plan, but keep submitting the songs, and we'll keep doing the reviews. So maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we'll figure it out. But send them in. Good times.
Can't wait to hear what comes next.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. This is fun. Can't wait till next time.
All right.
Have a good one, guys.
Cheers, everybody.
Toodles.